Hello. So, I said in my Atari 800XL video that I wasn't quite done with the system and I was going to come back to it, and now I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take a look at my 1010 tape recorder and my 1029 dot matrix printer. So I'm going to start with the tape deck, which I have opened and I know it doesn't work without trying it because that fell out of it, and that is the drive belt. So I think it's safe to say that that's perished. So I'm hoping it doesn't need too much more work than that. So I'm just going to go in, change the drive belt, maybe swap out the capacitors. I'll see what mood I'm in. Clean up the case, and that should be all this needs. So I'll crack it open. I'll have a look. Right, oh. Deep recessed screws. Out my screw. Yes, it does. Does my screwdriver work? No. Yeah. There we go. So yeah, drive belt would have gone there. The counter belt is still in place, but it's very flimsy. It's very, there's no spring in it at all, so that's as good as dead. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 electrolytics in there. May as well swap them out, there's not that many. Right, let's concentrate on the mechanical bit first. So I'm thinking I can separate these two halves. Put that to one side. Let's have a look. Looks fairly clean. So if I was just changing this top belt here, drive bolt, that would be a very, very simple operation, but because I've got to get to this counter belt as well, I'm going to need to take the whole mechanism out. So let's start with the rest of this case. Just disconnect. Give yourself some working room. And what have we got? I've got a mount there, there. I think that can't be all of them, surely. Let's take those out and see what moves. Right, so the wires are clipped into some moulded plastic there, so I have to be very gentle, and we should be free. Yep. Okay, so first time I've had to do that. To remove this from the top case, there is a screw there, there, there. A long, almost self-tapping screw goes in there, and a short, thin screw just on the motor there. So if you're ever doing this, now you know. Really like to get rid of this LED as well, just in my way, but fine. I'll work around it. So. Now I've got plenty of room to change the counter belt, and I might as well clean up the mechanism while I'm here as well. So let's get this out the way first. perished completely. Well, no, that's perished completely. That's not good. Right, so this is it pre-cleaning, and you can actually see a stain on the metal where the belt's been, so it hadn't completely fallen apart, but it must have been just about to. Other than that, it's not massively dirty, so hopefully for a change of belt this will work. That's all it needs, but well, we'll see. So I'll get some IPA in there, I'll just clean it up. I've got a little bit of lubricant that I'm just going to slap around some of these pivots. New belts on, that should be it for the mechanical side. Okay, right, new counterbelt. So the old one hooked over the top and then round the bottom. I think it went like that. Weird way of doing it. I think something like that. Yep, that's all. So hooks in at the top, and then it goes to the counter itself via this idler wheel. Never seen that before. Right, drive belt. Presumably like that. Let that center itself. Okay, so apparently different variations on this tape deck model need a different type of belt. This apparently is the Hong Kong version, so I needed the correct Hong Kong belt for it. Others won't fit apparently. So if you're going to do this, just double check what you're ordering. Right, well that should be the mechanical side of it sorted, assuming it was working and that was the only fault. Let's have a look at the case. I'll give the case a wash and maybe a bit of peroxide as well, because it has got a few sort of faded marks on it. So let's get this circuit board out. So just an observation, 2 screws at the front are quite short. It's the 2 outer screws at the back that you want to take off, because the inner ones are just held in with nuts and they don't screw into the case at all. So just let me tighten that back up again. Lovely. Don't need that yet. It's the bottom half of the case, that can be cleaned. It's actually not too bad. Top half, well that's got a few marks on it. So if I can get this mechanism out. So what have we got? Right, give this a bit of a clean. Right, so capacitors in tape decks, they don't typically get a hard life. There's almost certainly absolutely no reason to change these out whatsoever. So I've decided to go ahead and change them out anyway, because I have them. And I think I'm a little bit anal about capacitors anyway, so I would hate for this to fail over something as silly as that when I've got them lying in a box. So if you've got one of these yourself, it's totally up to you, but you probably almost certainly don't need to swap these out. And they all look fine, but like I said, I've got them and it's mine, so I'm doing them. So there. Right, the case should be dry by now. It's been out in the sun for a couple of hours. I can probably start reassembling this. So for a J cloth and a bit of washing up liquid, this came out really nice. I don't think I need to do anything more with the case. Right, I'll put it back together. So nothing ever works the way you want it to, does it? So I put this back together and plugged it in to see if it'd work. And it was making a noise, but nothing was turning. And when I took the back off, this pulley had fallen off and the belt had come with it. And what's happened is there's a little tiny gear there. And you probably won't see it on the camera. I had to put it under an eye loop, but there's a crack in it. And that should engage with the top of that spindle and hold it in place. And it's come away. So that's stopping the whole thing from working. I think my chances of getting a replacement part are 0. So I don't know if this is even repairable. I'm going to attempt to glue it. I've got some really good Gorilla Glue, so we'll give it a go. And I'll let you know, but I'm not optimistic. Okay, so my gluing attempt does seem to have worked in that I've got fast forward and rewind working, but play, when I connect it to the computer and instruct it to play, the pinch roller and Caspian will turn, but this won't. So all that happens is the tape ends up spooling out and it makes a mess. Now, looking back at the mechanism again, there's a lot more damage than I initially thought. So you see, the thing is, when I bought this, it came with an 800XL computer and it was really, really badly packaged. So the computer came out of the box in bits. I thought this had escaped. Apparently not. There's quite a bit of damage to the mechanism, so I need parts. So what I did do is I went onto everybody's favourite internet auction site. And I got a job lot of these, which are apparently all faulty in some way. But I'm thinking, because there's 4 of them, even I can be trusted to cobble something together that would actually work. So, yeah, so I'm going to start stripping these down, and I might swap the mechanism out. I'm hoping, apart from the ones that are missing keys, that the only problem is the belts may be dead. But that's fine, I've got belts. So I'll start pulling these apart and just seeing what's going on inside, and if the mechanisms are salvageable, or maybe I can swap a few parts around and make something workable. Right, that's my potential replacement mechanism. It seems okay. That cog isn't falling out, so let's not tempt fate with that. Get the belt swapped over and clean it up and see what we've got. Yeah. Of course the plugs are different. Why wouldn't the plugs be different? Right, so it's all back together. So here's what I've done. I've taken a supposedly good mechanism out of another tape drive. I've kept my original circuit board because I changed all the capacitors on it. Of course, the connectors are different, aren't they? So presumably Atari changed their parts supplier at some point while they were manufacturing these. So yeah, changed the connector, everything's gone back together. Hopefully that's the end of my problems and this will work, but we'll see. We'll give it a go and we'll see what happens. So I've got some Atari software, European countries and capitals. So let's give it a go, see if it works. Right, so 2 ways of loading software on these. One is you hold down Option and Select when you're powering on, and the other one, I think it's type in C load, I think. Yep. Well, the drive's turning, so now let's see what happens. Okay, tape drive stopped. Presumably that's loaded. I presume I just type in run, but what the balls is this?
That's right, Dublin, Ireland was the birthplace of all 3 of these prolific and well-known men.
Well, that was weird. Yeah, so it's actually loaded the software with that narration going on in the background. I've never known that before. That's weird. Do we want instructions? I'm a bloke, so I'll say no. Oh, we're off again. Oh, God. All right, what have you got for me? country number 1. Go for that. Okay, so it's just going to ask me for identifying a country and then the capital of that country, and that seems to be it. But it has proved that my cassette deck's working, so yeah, I'm happy. Right, yes, so my Atari 1029 printer. Don't quite know why I bought this, because I can't imagine what I'm ever going to use it for, but it was cheap and I was assured it worked. And I've powered it up and the mechanism does seem to move, although I've not hooked it up to the computer yet. I've had it attempting to print a test print, which it won't because the ink cartridge is ruined. Anyway, yes. Branded an Atari printer. It wasn't actually made by Atari. It was made by, what's that? I want to say Secosia. I apologise if I'm pronouncing that completely wrong. But it's mechanically the same as the Commodore MPS 801 printer. So their ink cartridges should work in this as well. And I believe the same printer was also used in Tandy printers as well, Tandy computers as well. So yeah, so it clearly wasn't worth the computer company's time to design and build their own. It was just easier to farm it out and put it in their own case. So that's what this is. Right, so it's designed for, in fact, let me just take these covers off. Yeah, it's designed for that strip paper that you used to see. So the stuff with the holes in the side that would feed in there. Reading the instruction manual, yes, it will work with single sheets as well, which is just as well because that's all I've got. The ink cartridge had dried out on this, so I bought myself one of those printer re-inking kits and I thought I'll be able to sort it out that way. But alas, no. The ribbon had seized completely, and when I tried to actually manually turn it, the top popped off and fractured, and well, the guts spilled out, so that was the end of that. But I was able to pick up, and it's even branded Commodore MPS 801. A couple of new old stock printer ribbons. Presumably they're still good. I don't know, maybe these have dried out as well, but as long as they function, if it has dried out, at least I can re-ink it. So I'll get this installed and we'll give it a whirl. I don't think I'm going to go ahead and strip this down if I don't have to. I can't imagine I'm going to be using it very much, so I just want to see it print something. Right, so reading the instructions, I need to move the print head away. Like that. Tension this up. Well, this one seems to work. Lovely. This should slot in. Lovely. Right. Let's put some paper in it. Let's do that as crooked as possible, shall we? Okay. Now, it does have a test function on it, so let's try it without hooking it up to a machine. Find the right plug. Okay. Let's try turning the test mode on. Alright, that's printing, but it's very faint. But you know what I forgot to do is move the print head back. So let's try that again. Yeah, that's incredibly faint. It's just... Yeah, we seem to have started off strong and got fainter as we go along. Okay. It's a 7-pin dot matrix printer, by the way, in case anyone was wondering. I think if you had the 9-pin, you were posh. Ah! Now, I've just given that wheel a turn and it seems to have clicked in. So there's a little mechanism in there that advances the ribbon. And I've got a feeling that hadn't engaged properly, so that might be my fault. So let me try another piece of paper. Right, a few adjustments later. I've been tinkering. Now, the printer ribbon seemed to be quite faded, but no, the ink is absolutely fine. What was happening is there's a bit of wear on the catch here. So the printer ribbon was popping up slightly as it was trying to print, which was disengaging the advancing mechanism for the ribbon. So it was basically running out of ink because it was constantly printing over the same strip. So I've temporarily just wedged something in there to stop it moving. I'll think of a more permanent solution soon. Moved the print head back a little bit and lubricated the rails, and it seems to be a lot better now. God, that's a noise. But yeah, printing as clearly as a dot matrix printer should. Right, I'll hook it up to the computer and I'll see if I can give it commands. Yeah, connecting up's a fairly straightforward procedure. We've got 2 input-output connections on the back. That's the test switch. And that is literally it. They're the only ports on the back of this thing at all, but I suppose that's all you need. Alright, we're hooked up. So let me just get this camera on the stand and we'll see what we can do with this. Okay, I'm assuming the Command L print will do something. Yep. Okay, so it does work. So the manual has this little program to test the printer out for printing graphics. And because I'm not in the slightest bit creative myself, I'm just going to go ahead and type that in and use that. Right. Well, hopefully I've not made any typos there, but we'll see. Yeah, so that line of code to do that. Oh well, yeah, I suppose it does work. Well, there you go. That's the Atari 1029 printer.